All right, dweebs. We're going to talk about something interesting right now. I alluded to making this video in my last video, and it's going to be 10 things in wrestling that need to stop. At first I thought of these things as tropes, but a lot of these things, I don't know if I'll call them tropes yet. A lot of them are just symptomatic of modern wrestling. You know what I mean? They're not like tropes. So, like, what I mean by a trope would be something like a guy walking backwards down the ramp, right, while he faces the people in the ring and saying, "I'll get you next time, Captain Planet," like that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? So now we're going to talk about just things that are happening right now and, historically in wrestling that need to end immediately because they are holding back wrestling as a medium, in my opinion. Cucks. All right. So, in no particular order, motherfuckers. Reason number one, or I guess not reason, but thing number one, you know what I mean? Over reliance on people that do not wrestle. Now, incorrectly, people have pointed out to this problem and have said that it's WWE relying too much on legends and part-timers and old-timers, right? That's not true, motherfucks. Because what's the difference between The Fiend Bray Wyatt and Goldberg? You know what I'm saying? Except for, obvious differences, like Goldberg is a real man and is awesome and is charismatic and looks great and is better in the ring and is better in every way. But insofar as The Fiend showing up every week to play with Ramblin' Rabbit and stick the buzzard up his own ass, aside from that, what does he actually bring to the table that Brock Lesnar didn't for years, right? He doesn't compete. You don't see The Fiend, like, having a wrestling match on Raw. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the last year and a half, The Fiend's had, like, 8 matches. You know what I mean? And, like, they've all been pay-per-view matches, basically. He might have, like, a match here and there, like, super rarely. But he is presented and he behaves exactly the same way as a part-timer. You know what I mean? He's the same as Goldberg or John Cena or Undertaker or Triple H, right? They wrestle, like, once in a while, and it's, like, a special thing, It feels the same exact way. He's not wrestling every week. This isn't just a problem with the Fiend Bray Wyatt. Like, Finn Balor, like, you barely see him on NXT. Like, I watch NXT, and it's always people competing for the right to fight Finn Balor. It's just, dude, it's Finn Balor. He's, like, supposed to be this workhorse guy, right? He should be out there every week doing Finn's Open Challenge or some bullshit like that, right? There's very few people that are consistently on TV. This is a problem that goes beyond WWE even. In AEW, I've been saying it for weeks. Trent Barretta, and to a lesser extent, Chuck Taylor, are holding their company up, right? Cody Rhodes, too. I have to give credit where credit's due. Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega wrestle, like, every week, right? Then there's people like Dean Ambrose who show up once every 8 weeks, and it's like, "Oh, remember me, I'm the champion." It's like, dude, no. Hold on a second. Now you're a part-timer. You're becoming the thing that you hate. Same thing with Bray Wyatt. Same thing with a lot of these people. People like Randy Orton, who consistently come out and have a match. They wrestle almost every week. Keith Lee now, right? Braun Strowman to a lesser extent. Roman Reigns to a lesser extent, right? There's people out there that are wrestling every week, More importantly, it's the mid-carders. People like The Miz, Morrison, The Hurt Business, right? For a long time, it was Angel Garza and Andrade, right? They're wrestling, like, every week. Every week you were guaranteed to see Andrade and Angel Garza taking up 30 minutes of the show, like taking 30 minutes away from people who have to work on finding what to put on the show, right? Doing their jobs, right? Some of the women too. All the time they wrestle and they take up time and they do what they're supposed to do. But for some reason, people care more about The Fiend. Like, people are so stupid, man. It's like you have Bobby Lashley and The Hurt. You have Bobby Lashley. Just look at Bobby Lashley and look at The Fiend, right? And then people are like, "Well, I like the pretty colors that The Fiend does when he comes in. He has a nice mask." Like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Bobby Lashley is, like, way better in the ring. He looks like a beast, right? And he's stronger, more athletic. So what the hell would I want to see The Fiend, right? And more importantly, motherfuckers, Bobby Lashley is out there wrestling every week. Every week, Lashley's doing something, And this, I'm going to get back to this a little bit later, but let's move on to reason 2. Reason 2, or thing 2, that needs to stop immediately. Characters with multiple identities. I am sick of this. It's cute when Mick Foley did it, right? Because it was kind of tongue-in-cheek. But people forget that the Mick Foley characters were 3 fleshed-out characters. It wasn't just him just switching back and forth. No, he was, for a while, he was Dude Love. That was its own gimmick. Then he became Mankind, which was a legit gimmick. Then Mankind himself had, like, multiple gimmicks. You know, there was like the evil, the like dark mankind, like the one that's like the reason why he wore the mask and he looked like that. And then he became like a comedy character, you know, Mankind and the Rock, like the Rock and Sock connection, you know? So there's people that are like that, and there's people that are like Finn Balor, right? There's too many of these Finn Balor types now, you know? All the time we hear people like, oh, like, you know, he's coming as another persona, and all this stupid shit. Like Bray Wyatt has 15, The Fiend, Sister Abigail, children's cartoon character, right? This idiot, the swamp idiot, you know what I mean? Like a Matt Hardy idiot. All these different ones. Matt Hardy is another one. He's got like multiple gimmicks. He just switches like to and from. It's so stupid. Everyone's got this now, man. It's like it's not cool anymore. You know, Undertaker had it, but think about Undertaker, right? There was American Badass Undertaker, and then there was the Dead Man Undertaker. He switched twice in his entire career, motherfuckers. He went from like he reinvented himself as the American Badass, and then eventually he switched back to Undertaker. And no matter how bad people wanted it, he never switched back, unless you argue like his last match against AJ Styles, he switched back kind of, you know what I mean? Because like he came in like more as like Mark Calloway than he did as Undertaker, right? So like that's about it, motherfuckers. Think about that. Matt Hardy switches 5 times in like Matt Hardy switches between 5 less interesting gimmicks in one match. You know? It's like, what the hell's the point? You know? Then we had Kane. Kane overdid it too, going from Citizen Kane, as some people called it, to like Demon Kane, Corporate Kane, Demon Kane. Every week it's a new Kane. You know? I don't want to see this, man. I'm tired of this like, oh, there's 2 personalities. Like Demon Kane's supposed to be stronger than Corporate Kane, you know? And Finn Balor isn't as strong as the Damon Finn Balor, you know? It's just goofy shit. Now Alexa Bliss is doing it. It's just horrible. Stop it. All right, it's dumb. Reason 3. Wrestlers with no gimmicks, motherfucks. Wrestlers with no gimmicks. Now, when I say gimmick, I don't mean like a cheesy 80s or even 90s gimmick. You know, Bobby Lashley doesn't have to be like the Godfather. Doesn't have to have the Godfather type gimmick. But the Hurt Business is a gimmick, and it works well. Other wrestlers, though, don't have a gimmick. It's like, let's put these 3 luchadors together, give them a piñata, and then just say they like to party. They like to have fun. Yeah? Lucha House Party. There it is, right? By the way, what the fuck happened to Lars Sullivan? I just remembered his ass. Anyways, what I'm trying to make is, who the hell cares, right? What the hell is going on here? You know? Give people a gimmick. Lars Sullivan is a great example of a guy who needs a gimmick. Otherwise, this guy will be future endeavored really soon. He has Ezekiel Jackson written all over him. We need people with gimmicks. That's where creative control comes in. If you have a good idea, it should be pursued. If someone else has a good idea for you, it should also be pursued. But it seems to me like a lot of these wrestlers, they get creative control and they just become generic jobbers. You know, look at FTR. Like they were going to get a new gimmick in WWE, whatever it was going to be. And instead now they're just guys that wear jeans. Oh, we wear jeans and we're champions. Oh, we're exactly the same as like every other generic tag team, you know? It is what it is. But wrestling is a gimmick-driven business. And people need gimmicks. That's why people like the Hurt Business are doing as well as they are, and why people like Braun Strowman are directionless. Because all of a sudden now, they give Braun Strowman like a shirt and some camel pants and shave his head, and he's supposed to be this like serious, more serious type guy, you know? I can't forget that 2 weeks ago, he was out there in a swamp wrestling with Bray Wyatt, probably fondling each other's balls or something. I don't even know. Reason 4, the 4th thing that needs to stop. So much women's wrestling. We do not need this much women's wrestling. Now, a lot of people may be thinking, hater, it's pretty sexist of you. No, motherfuckers, it's not sexist at all. And here's why. Because I have nothing against the women wrestling themselves, right? If they were good, I would watch it. They're not good, they're shit. And the problem is, even in the shit pile that is the WWE and AEW and TNA and every other women's roster I've ever seen in my life, except for Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, everyone else is pretty much shit and always has been. Like, let's not get it twisted, you know? I don't want to hear this like, oh, wrestling, look, women's wrestling was great back in the day. Jacqueline and Chyna. No, Jacqueline is better than Dana Brooke. Nobody's saying otherwise. Ivory is better than, I don't know, Mandy Rose, right? Ivory might be even better than Bayley. Who cares? But they were never good, right? Lita was never good. Trish Stratus was never good. Go watch the Trish Stratus-Lita match. It's botch after botch after botch. They were never good wrestlers. The whole point was they were hot girls, right? Who would like fight each other and periodically would end up with their clothes off, right? That was the whole draw of it. You know, I understand it's childish, it's immature, it's toxically masculine, whatever the fuck they call it now. But that's why it was interesting. Nobody gives a fuck about these. Like nobody would want to see like Lita versus Trish Stratus in like a serious match. Nobody cares about that. People just wanted to see them because they were two hot girls. Now the girls aren't even that hot. So what the hell's the point? You know what I'm saying? What the hell is the point, motherfucks? You know what I mean? There's absolutely no reason to even have this. But it is what it is. They're going to have it anyways. And that's fine. I get it. Some people want to see Bayley versus Sasha 19 times in a row. That's fine. But because there's so much women's wrestling, now we also have to tolerate things like Dana Brooke, who actually is not that bad, but you know, Dana Brooke and Lana, right? We have to like now see Lana on pay-per-view, you know? Because the women can only fill so many spots. Just wait until the women's Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? Just wait until that happens, right? What's going to happen then? People are going to be like, what the hell is going on? Like, who the hell are these broads? Oh shit, it's Casey Catanzaro from NXT again. You know what I mean? So like, that's what I'm getting at, right? There's no actual, what's it called? Like, depth. I can't believe I'm using the word depth to describe the women's roster. But you know what I mean? There's none of that going on. So it's like, shit, fam. Like, what the hell are we going to do, you know? We're going to just have to put Lana, I guess. And nobody wants to see that garbage, right? Right. Thing 5 that needs to change. The lack of understanding of who is actually carrying the show needs to change, right? The people that are being featured as prominently as they are not the ones that are carrying the show. I hate to say it, motherfucks, but people like Andrade and Angel Garza and even Austin Theory, like the few months after WrestleMania, they were carrying the show. Like the show wouldn't have been Brendan Vink. These jabrones were carrying the show. You know what I'm saying? Like they were out there wrestling and wrestling and wrestling and making something for themselves, right? They were taking up time, as I said earlier in point number 1, the over-reliance on people that do not wrestle, right? They were actually wrestling, they're carrying the show, and these people should be rewarded to some extent. And they should be rewarded in a hierarchy of how much they're carrying the show. So if you're Ricochet, you're contributing virtually nothing, you know what I'm saying? Like it's the same shit every week. Ricochet comes out, does his 5 moves, no one cares. But if you're MVP, for example, like MVP, you can make an argument that MVP this year is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Now, not because of his wrestling ability, right? But because of his character work, right? I'm not saying he's reinvented himself, but he has taken the Beatdown Clan from TNA and put them here as the Hurt Business, basically. And him and Lashley have rekindled their partnership and have given new life to people like Shelton Benjamin and life, period, to people like Cedric Alexander, right? MVP has been instrumental in like Raw this entire year. MVP deserves a push. The Hurt Business deserves a push. Bobby Lashley should be world champion, not US champion. But it is what it is, motherfuckers. People like that need to be rewarded instead of focusing on Bray Wyatt. Like, Braun Strowman didn't even have a spot on the WrestleMania card. He didn't even have a match on the card. And then Roman Reigns is like, fucking peace out, I'm gone. Not only does he get a spot on the card, Braun Strowman becomes champion. Why? Because he's big and strong and kind of a cuck. Let's be real. Have you seen those pictures of him dressing up as an elf? Like smiling with his mouth open? I don't care that he's a big guy. He obviously doesn't get that many women, I guess, because he seems like a simp to your boy. Simp is a new word that I learned recently, motherfuckers. I'm sure I've used it in other videos, but I've learned it the last few months. You know what I'm saying? I like that word. So anyways, my friend taught me. So anyways, reason number 6, thing number 6, that needs to end immediately. Probably the most important one. Cinematic wrestling and a lack of seriousness in matches needs to end immediately. You know, wrestling needs to have a bit of seriousness. Like the way that I interpret wrestling is like so, right? People get together and they're competing, you know, for a championship. That's the whole point of the show, of kayfabe wise, right? You're there to be champion, right? Now, in the context of being champion, some people are going to be more focused than others. Some people are going to be better than others, right? So they're going to go and do that and have great matches, etc., be in the main event. Then, in the mid-card, there are people who are obviously concerned with being champion, but may also have a bit more fun, right? So you have people like Godfather, let's say, Val Venus, right? Where it's like, Val Venus and Jeff Jarrett, for example, are presented as a porn star and a country singer who both want to be champion, right? They have other side careers, quote unquote, motherfuckers, but they want to be champions. But the fact that they are what they are cannot like be detached from their character, right? So it's like if imagine if who's a big country star, Luke Bryan. If Luke Bryan wanted to be WWE champion, right? He would still have some of his country boy mannerisms. That's the point of Jeff Jarrett, right? But what I'm saying is it's supposed to be presented as quasi-serious. Jeff Jarrett or even Elias, like Elias might come and sing. Elias is a perfect example. Elias might come and sing. He even had an album release, right? But he'll use the guitar to beat you up. But he's there to win matches. Make no mistake about it, motherfucks. He's not there just to be an asshole, right? Street Profits, perfect example, right? They're two guys that like to have fun. You know, they're stereotypical in many ways. But they're there to win matches. They're not there to fuck around. New Day, same thing, right? That's why these things sometimes work. But when things become too silly, right? Like, for example, let's compare Kofi Kingston nearly being eliminated and surviving elimination in the Royal Rumble through one of his Kofi moments, right? That's legit, right? It's like he's not doing that to show off. He's doing that, kayfabe-wise, right, in order to prevent being eliminated, even though almost always he gets back in and gets eliminated immediately afterwards. What I'm trying to make is that it has, like, a place, like, it's cool, it's different, but it has a place in the match. Now, compare that to a recent video that my friend sent me of Marco Stunt, like, being held up in front of a dildo in the middle of a ring, right? And a guy trying to put his face into a dildo, his mouth into the dildo, I guess, right? Or people putting thumbs up each other's asses. You know what I'm saying? In like ROH or whatever the fuck, that those indie feds that draw like 10 people, right? The crowd is like 10, 15 people, and 7 wrestlers have their thumbs up each other's asses. Yeah, enough said, right? These kind of things, or Joey Ryan, that whole shtick, you know? These kind of things have no place in wrestling, man. There's no place in wrestling for this kind of goofballness. Now, once in a while, it's interesting. Like Santino, for example, had some good moments, but the vast majority of Santino's run is retarded, right? Like Jinder Mahal trying to, like, you know, play a flute to control Santino's Cobra is retarded. There's no room for that here. You know what I mean? Like, it's not good shit, right? It has to be serious. It has to be serious, motherfuckers. And this extends to other things that are presented as serious, but any person with any kind of like autonomy in their head would understand, no, this is not serious. Like Scarlett Bordeaux coming out with an hourglass and putting it in the ring, and Adam Cole being like, well, hourglass, what's going on? That's not serious. It's stupid. Like a real person would be like, get the fuck out of here with this horse shit. I'm trying to celebrate my victory and you're out here giving me an hourglass. Nobody got time for that, you know? So that's what I'm getting at, right? Seriousness needs to come back, right? Before everything turns into Chikara. And one thing about seriousness is that in seriousness, there is no room for cinematic wrestling. Like once in a while, fine. You know what I'm saying? But no more. No more of that shit. You know what I mean? Now, thing number 7 that needs to stop immediately. Disqualification finishes and like count out finishes and other kind of shit like that to protect jobbers, right? Mustafa Ali has no reason to get disqualified other than to protect the fact that he's the leader of Retribution and he can't take a pin. But it doesn't matter because his character is tarnished anyways, right? Someone who cowers is worse than someone who loses fair and square, right? Like a screwy finish where you lose is better than a clean finish. But a clean finish is better than you purposefully getting yourself disqualified. I don't know where, but it changed, right? It changed. Somehow, down the line, people were like, well, if the guy beats him up with a chair, it makes him look stronger. Not if afterwards he runs away, like Mustafa Ali did, right? Mustafa, more like cuck. You know what I'm saying? So that needs to change immediately. DQ finishes to protect people. I'm tired of it. I want to see actual pins and submissions and wins and losses. DQ finishes are like the bane of wrestling. Like if you're gonna rely on them, it should be like just once in a while, you know? But they've become so frequent that now, and also no contests have become like a thing now, that you have like The Fiend versus Seth Rollins last year at Hell in a Cell. It ends in a no contest. It's Hell in a Cell match. You know? It is what it is, but it sucks. Thing number 8. This is probably the worst one, honestly. What needs to stop is the amount of rematches people get. How many times do I have to see Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. I don't want to see it anymore. I'm done with that shit, man. I don't want to see it anymore, motherfuckers. I don't want to see Uso versus Roman Reigns. I don't just mean Jey Uso. I mean any one of the Usos. I'm done with that feud. I don't want to see it. MVP and the Hurt Business have defeated Retribution like 19 times in a row. I don't care about that anymore. New things, motherfuckers. New things. Thing 9 that needs to change. Wrestlers acting weird and inconsistently, right? Wrestlers who act inconsistently make me sick, right? If Randy Orton 1 year burns down Bray Wyatt's compound, he has no reason to be afraid of Bray Wyatt ever again. He completely emasculated him, right? He burned down the guy's house. He essentially pissed on the grave of Sister Abigail. He ruined the entire Wyatt family compound, right? Then he went on to WrestleMania and he cleanly beat Bray Wyatt in like a 6-minute match. So kayfabe-wise, Randy Orton has absolutely nothing to be afraid of from Bray Wyatt. It should be the other way around. Bray Wyatt should be traumatized by what Randy Orton did to him. He beat him so bad, like I said in the last video, that Bray Wyatt became a lackey for Matt Hardy. Bray Wyatt should look at Randy Orton, the Fiend should look at Randy Orton and should think to himself, shit, I don't want to fight this guy again because he might beat me and send me back to NXT. You know what I'm saying? That's what should happen. There's no reason why Randy Orton should be afraid of the Fiend. There's no reason why the Fiend should just stalk Randy Orton. The Fiend should be traumatized by what Orton has done to him. As a matter of fact, motherfucks, the WWE roster should be traumatized, kayfabe-wise, by what Randy Orton has done in the past. Randy Orton is a guy that will go after your family. He will burn the grave of your loved ones. He will invade your home. Kayfabe-wise, Randy Orton is more dangerous than Bray Wyatt. What has Bray Wyatt or the Fiend done that makes him so scary and dangerous? He does the same things that Retribution does. He does the same things as every other person who comes in, attacks him from behind, then loses the match that matters. You know what I mean? So nobody cares about this shit. People should act consistently. Randy Orton cannot one day punt Vince McMahon on the head, kiss Triple H's wife in front of him, beat Triple H with a sledgehammer, right? And then RKO the rest of the McMahon family. And then the next week, come out scared of the Fiend after he beats the Fiend several times. No, motherfucker. It doesn't work that way. That's what, think about it. All wrestlers that are good, that become famous, are one thing. They have one thing in common. Consistency, right? Stone Cold is consistently badass. And when he's not, like when Stone Cold is like, becomes kind of like a pussy, you know, where he's like singing to Vince McMahon, playing the guitar, it is only for a short term, and it is presented as a deviation from the Stone Cold norm. And it's only done so that when Stone Cold decides to not be a pussy anymore, he can come in and beat the shit out of the entire alliance like he did in that one episode of Raw, where he came in with like a pull cue and beat the shit out of everyone backstage. They went into the ring and performed stunners on everybody, right? That's the whole point. Stone Cold is not afraid of anything, right? Why? Because he's consistently a badass, right? The Rock, less so consistent, less so important. Do you understand what I'm saying? Undertaker, super consistent, super legend. You see what I'm getting at, motherfucks? You know what I'm saying? So there you have it, right? We need consistency. You know? I understand. Wrestlers like Bray Wyatt are not going to be the consistent ones. They're the idiots that like, all right, now it's time for you to dress in drag and become Sister Abigail. They're that guy, right? But Randy Orton, people like that, need to be consistent. There's no reason why Randy Orton should have any worries about the Fiend. Randy Orton should do one of those promos they do, like those backstage promos by himself, where he just looks at the camera and says, I've already emasculated you more than anyone ever, right? You don't want to mess with me, kid. You think what I did last time was bad when I burned down the compound? I'll do worse this time, right? Then he should go to the ring and RKO Alexa Bliss from behind when she's doing an interview. You know what I'm saying? He should do some horrible shit. That's the best kind of Randy Orton. And that's why I like Randy Orton right now, because he is going back to that like legend killer / like 2008, 2009 Randy Orton, where he was just a vile piece of shit, you know, when he started becoming like the Viper, you know what I'm saying? He started acting like a snake, like the whole like mentally unstable Randy Orton, you know? That's what I'm liking here. That's what he did to Edge. You know, he RKO'd Beth Phoenix. He like put Edge out. You know, like that's what I want to see. I don't want to see Randy Orton being afraid of Bray Wyatt or Drew McIntyre, these two jobbers. You know what I'm saying? So there you have it, motherfucks. That's thing number 9. And thing number 10. We've alluded to this one a little bit because we've had to, but things that are overtly supernatural should not exist. Like, for example, motherfucks, buried alive matches should no longer exist. They're not cool anymore. If AJ Styles gets buried and comes back next week, then what? How did Undertaker get his revenge? It's like this static moment in history that lasted one day. It's supposed to last forever. It lasted one day, right? Or whatever, however long it lasted, right? The Firefly Funhouse needs to go away. All other sorts of shit, other Bray Wyatt shit needs to go away. All these swamp matches, all this garbage. People forget that a while ago, Bray Wyatt did the. First of all, all this comes from Matt Hardy's mind, like the ultimate deletion or whatever, right? This is a Hardy Boys thing. Now think about this: when Matt Hardy was feuding with Bray Wyatt, there was a part where Bray Wyatt did some Scooby Doo shit, where he would go like behind the tree and Matt Hardy would appear behind another tree, and they would just chase each other like by teleporting from trees, basically, right? That's the kind of shit that we're watching, motherfuckers. I don't care if they take it and make it serious. It's the same shit. And people are like, oh, the Firefly Funhouse match with Cena was great because it profiled Bray Wyatt's career. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit if it profiled Bray Wyatt's career as well as Cena's careers. I don't give a rat's ass about that. I just want to see John Cena come out and just beat Bray Wyatt and say here's what I want to see. I want to see Cena come out and be like, I don't know what happened this last year, but for some reason Bray Wyatt thinks that we had a match and that he beat me. You know? He's like, I was just fucking around. I thought we were doing for charity or something, you can say, right? No more supernatural shit. I'm tired of it. It happens way too often. Sometimes they try to present it as not supernatural, right? But Mia Yim has like a seizure and says, get them off me, and like she's scratching for bugs. And then also like, oh my God, what's going on? And why wouldn't they behave that way, right? In WWE, people can shoot lightning out of their ass. So why the fuck can't this person like have bugs crawling under their skin or whatever, right? So that's what I'm saying. Enough supernatural garbage. And I know a lot of people are probably thinking, well, Hater, what about The Undertaker? That wasn't that great either, motherfucks. Undertaker, in the beginning, wasn't that great. I didn't enjoy that shit. I didn't enjoy a guy coming out there pretending he was a zombie. But at least people bought it. I remember when, in like 5th grade and 4th grade, classmates of mine, thought that The Undertaker was real. And they're like, oh, I think he's real. He's from hell. And people were like afraid of him for sure. You know? So at least it made sense that way. But even so, it wasn't good. Undertaker eventually just transcended, and he became a character that's so iconic that you just tolerate it. You know what I'm saying? But other supernatural shit is stupid. Undertaker, he can get a pass just because, like let's be real. Since 2006, like when Undertaker started feuding with Randy Orton, which I think was the first time someone actually challenged the streak, where someone actively said, I'm going after the streak. Like, that was one of the greatest moments in wrestling history, if you think about it, right? Because Undertaker did have a match at WrestleMania, and Randy Orton was like, I want Undertaker at WrestleMania because he's never lost at WrestleMania, and I want to beat him at WrestleMania. Like, he was the first one who was like, I don't care about the title right now. There's something more prestigious here, and that is wrestling Undertaker at WrestleMania, motherfucks. So when that happened, Undertaker became a real legend, right? You can argue that he became a legend shortly after the invasion angle, but during the invasion angle, he was still Undertaker, a decade of destruction. He was only there for 10 years. You know, it was what it was. But eventually, shortly thereafter, he became a legend, and he was treated as such. Nobody really gave a fuck that he was supernatural anymore. He was just the Undertaker, right? So that gets a pass, but even so, it wasn't necessary either. I, for one, with a lot of other people, prefer the American Badass Undertaker, you know, because one reason why I prefer it is because there's no supernatural shit. He's not going to summon fire onto a casket, you know. So that's what I got to say about that. No more supernatural nonsense. And these have been your 10 things that need to stop in wrestling immediately, motherfuckers. Immediately. These things are more urgent than things like we need to sign more big people and not have tiny guys wrestling. I don't even care about that. Make it all cruiserweights. Dragon Gate wrestling is great. It's all cruiserweights, right? But it's presented in a certain way that makes it awesome. You know, there's no like, I mean, there's a lot of goofy shit there, but you know what I'm saying, right? Everyone's a cruiserweight. It's consistent. Remember the word consistent, motherfuckers. There you go. That's what I gotta say about that, motherfuckers. So with that in mind, I'll leave you guys for now until later, until the Pat McAfee video, which I can't wait to do. It's gonna be amazing. All right, motherfuckers. Subscribe now if you haven't today.